For USC to really take the next step, they've got to get away from taking so many players in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
On Crossover with Locked On USC and Locked On the Portal, I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On the Portal and Locked On USC a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, where new customers can bet $5, and if that $5 bet hits, you can unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Just download it today. We're going to be talking about the next steps for the USC Trojans later on in the show. How do they do it step by step? There are some very important points, including a game plan to get from where they're likely to finish 9-3 to get to the playoffs next year and beyond. It's not as simple as it sounds. We'll get to that a little later in the show. But first, it looks like they're going to finish 9-3. Where should we grade USC? What areas did they get a passing grade? Is there anything that's just okay? And what was deficient? And of course, is it enough at this point in the juncture for the coaching staff at USC and the administration? Have they done everything that they need to? We're going to talk about Lincoln Riley and all those guys next. And to help me do that, Marc Kulkin, Locked On USC. Marc, how you doing, sir?
I'm surviving, ready for Turkey Day.
Yeah, well, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. This is a fun weekend, by the way. Thanksgiving's great, but the football, whether you're pro or college or both, I'll watch a little of both. There's a lot of things to be thankful for there because there's a lot of intrigue. USC, let's start off with this. Obviously better this year than last. That's obvious. But where do you think they improved the most in your estimation?
Well, let's just, if we're going to take some baby steps, let's start with winning on the road in conference. They got that monkey off their shoulder. So they first conference game, they went out there to Purdue. I know not the toughest of places, but
yeah, they won.
Got the job done. You want to talk about the next step? They were able to go into an environment like Nebraska during a blackout at night. Went on the road there in a tough environment where things didn't go exactly according to plan offensively. It was a low scoring kind of a slug out fest. And now USC has a chance to go undefeated at home by beating UCLA this coming weekend, which if you want any chance of going deep into the postseason, the playoffs, you got to win all your home games. That's something USC didn't do last year. They're doing it this year. So there's been incremental parts of the growth to the program, the culture being built. I know that's a buzzword coaches like to use. Ironically, going into the season, everyone thought, all right, USC's they've got some talent now on the defensive line. They got some depth. That was going to be maybe the strength. Well, it turns out the offensive line turned out to be the strength where there was major question marks going into the season. And even though they just, went through a litany of injuries, they were still able to kind of cobble together game after game until you face your two strongest opponents, Notre Dame and Oregon. And then we saw what happened last weekend against Oregon, where not only did the injuries kind of catch up, but the lack of discipline and the lack of special teams really kind of perfect storm on the road at Oregon. Tight game, 14-14, final score 42-27.
These are some of the steps that are very common in football. What's good for USC, and I agree that the O-line, I don't know, how many guys are they going to have back if everything goes well on the O-line next year, Marc?
So if Elijah Page comes back, you got your starting tackle returning again. At left guard, you got plenty of guys there that USC has recruited. Tobias Raymond has been playing at left guard. He's been playing at left tackle. Center, you got Keelan O'Connor, who started as a walk-on, earned his scholarship. He has another year of eligibility. Alani Noah has another year of eligibility. He's been a 3-year starter at right guard. I mentioned Tobias Raymond already. And then you got Justin Tawu-N'U'u, who also would be coming back as a third-year player. So, and then behind them, you still got younger guys who they've recruited. They do not need to hit the transfer portal for an offensive lineman. So that's one area where you can say, all right, since Lincoln Riley has taken over, it's maybe taken a little bit longer than necessary, but they're at a point now where their offensive line, the linemen, that side of the ball, they don't need to go into the transfer portal to find a Band-Aid. This was the final season when they had to do it. They brought in DJ Wingfield. That didn't work out just because he ran out of eligibility before USC recognized he ran out of eligibility. And then DeAndre Reed, who they brought in from Syracuse, was supposed to be the starting center this year, got outworked by Killian O'Connor. And he was he played a lot this season. He had to come in when Killian kept getting hurt, but he was a backup. And at the end of the year, he was playing injured. So I think USC used 6 different starting lineups combinations, and then at least 14, 15 different combinations throughout the year at offensive line. And this is kind of what you saw when they went up against teams like Oregon and Notre Dame.
Well, I think all that experience will pay off in the long run.
It's definitely going to pay off going next year. Absolutely.
My next part of this, Lincoln Riley, his plan, I've always been skeptical about how much he plans with passing game and running game. But when they tried to run it this year, they were pretty good at it when they were healthy enough. The running back room was goofy. There's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
They've got better running backs than what some people probably know, but they're on the sidelines with Lincoln.
Right.
That is what it is. That I'm not worried about that spot. Where I am, this is weird for me to say moving forward, there's no replacing Mekhi Lemon. I'm sure he's going to leave. Why would he stay? He's going to head to the NFL.
He's first round, period. I mean,
yeah, he's going to late first round pick worst, but whatever. Lane going to leave? Is he done too? That's the question. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I don't. Right now, I would say he's probably 75-25, 75 to the NFL. And this is just my own personal gut feeling. I don't know if there's a whole lot more he can prove at this level other than being more consistent, more disciplined, that type of thing. He's got some major skill sets that, you just can't really teach. But if he can focus in a little bit more on the discipline part of the game, being more mature, focus on his route running, he has a role at the next level. But whether or not he's willing to put another year in at school, I don't know. The guy who would replace Mekhi Lemon, you saw him play this year as a freshman. It's two new kinds. Yeah, without a doubt.
They need one guy, I would assume, out of the portal, and they recruit well enough. There'd be a couple other guys, I would imagine.
Well, don't forget Zacharias Williams, they brought in from Utah at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, he's been injured all year. He played one snap late in the game against Oregon for some reason, but he comes back. Yeah, I know. I did the same look in the press box, like, why? There's guys on the roster, and there's guys coming in this next class. Look, Brian, we both know USC is never going to be at a shortage at wide receiver. If they can maybe go into the portal and find another one, great. Just make sure it's the right guy, because I'm sure we'll talk about this later in the show. When you go in the portal and you're going to spend the money you need to spend to bring in a good guy, if you don't get that return on your investment, it's money wasted, so to speak.
100%. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about next year's expectations. Sounds like they're going to have some really good players up front. Defense is going to have a lot of young guys. Quarterback should be back. What are the expectations for the Trojans next season? That is here on this crossover, Locked On USC and the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by those over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially with the NBA. You know how it goes. There's always a late fourth quarter push, no matter what the score is early in the game. That makes it a lot more exciting. To that end, the Lakers, and you've got Oklahoma City. Those are two of the teams in the West to really streak it out. Are they going to make it another big finals opportunity for one of those two? OKC's coming off a championship. The Lakers are the Lakers. That could be the Western Conference Finals. That's something else you could look at for a possible wager. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet winner. for new customers. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up today, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making Locked On USC and Locked On the Portal your first listens each and every day. Please like and subscribe and become an everydayer to each of our pods. Mark, 9-3 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Probably not what you were hoping for 10-2 making the playoff, but they were close. I mean, they were within reach.
That Illinois game is going to bite me all off season long, period.
Yeah, they may not have got in with that, but pretty good chance I think that because Oregon and Notre Dame, if you're going to have 2 losses, that's pretty good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll never know, but I get it. What is the spot that you think, I'm curious to see if you say the same thing that I do, that they have to do the most to improve from a coaching technical standpoint, game planning to get better? Forget talent for a second. Let's erase that. What do they got to do to get better and to get over the hump in like an Illinois game? What was it, like 2 points or something like that? Those close 3-point kind of games. What do they got to do differently?
So I think myself included, everyone anticipated USC's defense taking the next step from what they did last year, which was a dramatic improvement from the year before.
Oh, gosh. A couple of years ago was horrendous. Yeah.
They have to improve in the front 7. Full stop right there. USC they were a second half team this year, and they got better in the second half of the games defensively, but they weren't able to stop power running teams. You saw it against Illinois at times. You saw it definitely against Notre Dame, and you definitely saw it against Oregon, where they held Oregon under their average, but Oregon was still able to do enough when they wanted to do it. And we know what happened at Notre Dame. I mean, Jeremiah Love kind of might have sealed his Heisman Trophy right then and there. But they need to get bigger and stronger on the defensive line. They have to get more production from their defensive edges. They weren't getting to the quarterback enough. They weren't getting and I'm not talking about statistically. You got to get them off his spot. You got to move them. You got to make them uncomfortable. So they weren't getting enough of that type of pressure. And at linebacker, everyone thought Rob Ryan's coming in. He's going to take the talent that's there and kind of just tweak it a little bit and make it good. Eric Gentry kind of regressed this year. Desmond Stevens maybe needs a little bit longer than most players to read and react. Jaden Walker, again, another second-year player from the state of Michigan. Tamir Robinson they brought in from Penn State. They just didn't get a return on the production at linebacker. So the front 7 is where it has to start and stop if USC wants to be better than 9-3. They have to be able to stop the run, and particularly between the tackles.
Yes or no? I think a big problem with this is actually the offense, how Lincoln schemes and how Lincoln practices, how much they hit in practice.
Yes. And again, we don't get to see practice. We have to go by what the coaches tell us and assume, all right, and it's always coach speak. But, we did get to see a few practices this year. And what we saw, I'm sure it was very choreographed. So it's hard to tell, all right, is this what happens when we're not here using our untrained eyes? But yeah, it does come down to maybe they don't practice physically enough. Again, without seeing it, though, you can't point the finger and say that's it. We know Coach Riley likes to throw the ball, but we also know he likes to run the ball.
He does a really good job of it and doesn't get enough credit.
Right.
That's the one area I agree with. Yeah.
They got the tight ends more involved this year, Lake McCree and Walker Lyons. The offense really was good, but when the running game wasn't there, and when Jayden Maiava was maybe taking too long to decide, I got to use my legs this game, it doesn't have the balance that you're looking for. So offensively, at home, Jayden Maiava nails. Jayden Maiava on the road, really good, but you can see the production drop off. Maybe it was, pressure, whatever the case may be. You could see it happening. So that, and then you said something that's not necessarily about offense or defense. It's about discipline. If you watch that game against Oregon, they had no margin for error to begin with, but to have 8 penalties for 100 plus, almost 100 yards. And it was the type of penalties they had. They had so many unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. You had the guy pretending he's Jefferson from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Desmond Stevens, jumping over the line on the field goal attempt that was actually missed. It's that type of stuff. And if you have a lack of discipline doing the smart thing, and then you also have a lack of discipline covering on special teams, you get a punt return for a touchdown. So it's that type of stuff.
That's always the case at USC. When they don't achieve, discipline is almost a lock historically. I don't know why that is, but they shoot themselves in the foot, like false starts, unsportsmanlike, and just penalties that has nothing to do with Lincoln Ross. I'm sorry. Like, he's not telling you to hit a guy late or act like a fool. You know what I mean? Nobody does that.
And that's the thing. USC knew that USC Oregon game, there was a lot riding on the line. Obviously, USC wins. They got the clear path to a 10-2, probably going to go to the playoffs. You probably knock Oregon off their perch. You also start to find the West Coast recruiting type of stuff. So there's all that, the game within the game. And when you feel like you're doing everything you can to win, and you just don't have the horses, all of a sudden you kind of lose a little bit of the players start doing more than they're supposed to do. And you see Jacoby Lane chasing after a ball that's been an interception deep into Oregon sideline because that's our ball. Let the referees take care of that. Sometimes a freshman will lose his head. You saw that happen during the game where they got a 15-yard penalty because they spun the ball and pointed first down to the Oregon sideline. It's those types of things. So, yeah, they need some discipline. And I don't know if there's anybody on staff that kind of carries that club, so to speak.
I agree. And that's a great segue to the final part of the show. This is we make a few predictions here. What does SC have to do both from a roster standpoint and from discipline? I think we've already nailed that. We're lockstep on that. That is 100%. Mark and I agree. That is a lockstep. But besides that, what roster, what coaching moves they got to move to make, that is next here on the Portal and Locked On SC. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. College football is in its great glory with the Thanksgiving weekend games, rivalry games, USC, UCLA, and everything else that's going on across the college football. You got the game, Michigan, Ohio State. You've got the Iron Bowl, Mississippi, going over to Mississippi State for the Egg Bowl, all kinds of stuff. Tailgates, rivalries, all the energy in the stands. There's nothing like college football on this great weekend. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can be more of a difficult battle than the actual games themselves. Endless queues, hidden fees, and prices can be really, really surprising as they jump out at you at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, and I actually used Gametime recently to buy 2 tickets. It's the app that gives you and me, the fans, a chance to get what they deserve without all the hidden fees. For me, 2 tickets in 5 minutes. Found the team I wanted, the game I wanted, the seats I wanted, got to see my seat view from my phone to make sure it's exactly what I wanted. And yes, the price is what I expected it to be at the beginning and the end of the transaction. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. All right, let's make a few predictions here. SC needs to get better in the front seven. You've already talked about that. Should they use more portal guys, or is it just a few more guys, high school ranks, maybe just like one player, like go get a dude, middle linebacker, detail, whatever. What do you think? What's about the volume here? Is it more just development, or are they really going to need some more portal guys?
No, it's development at this point. If you're going to go supplement your roster, go get one guy for the D line, and if you're going to spend money there, you have to evaluate right. You cannot bring a couple of guys in and say, well, they're from the SEC and they're physical, yada, 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 but not get the return on that investment. So you got to get one stud who's ready to come in and make an impact right away. Otherwise, you've got guys that you've recruited. You just have to get them developed and ready to play. Like I said, Jakeem Stewart, I saw enough from him this year that he's going to be wreaking havoc next year. Same thing at linebacker. I think USC's too light at linebacker. They really need to go out and find an impact guy. Are they out there in the transfer portal linebacker? I don't know. Usually you'll find a defensive line, you'll find offensive linemen. You don't really see the linebackers, waving their hands saying, hey, pay me. But that's an area that USC needs to hit is up the middle, defensive tackle, and a middle linebacker. On the offensive side of the ball, I think they're fine, honestly. If you can get Waymo to come back, and you got the younger guys, maybe you bring in a guy, but you don't need to do it. And then maybe, and I know I'm using the word maybe a lot, another veteran at cornerback.
Okay.
But USC's recruited well enough now that it's, you know what? Let's roll with the guys we really wanted, and those guys wanted to be here. And don't forget that 2026 class that's coming in. It's number 1 ranked, and there's a lot of dudes in it. Are they now? They're not ready to contribute and turn the team around right away, but it's still more foundational pieces: offensive linemen, defensive linemen, all that kind of stuff.
I think I'm going to piggyback off of what Mark is saying. And in that last part, I want people to understand this. There are a lot of programs right now that are in much worse shape than USC, where next year that coach doesn't win, probably not going to go well. They're going to be forced to use the portal a little more, where SC's not. I mean, you're 9-3. I mean, barring shock and UCLA wins, I'd be floored if that happened. I mean, anything's possible in college football.
I've seen it happen in this rivalry, Brian. So let's not talk that into existence right now.
But at the same time, SC can be a little more patient. Yeah. Are they going to win the national title next year? Probably not, but they should be good.
Well, have you seen
the playoff?
Have you seen their schedule next year, Brian?
I have not looked at it.
Well, let me go over that with you for a few seconds here.
Okay, please do. Please do.
So the Notre Dame game is still up in the air. It's on the schedule. It says in the city. Not sure what that means. If you want to read the tea leaves, maybe it's playing at SoFi. I don't know. We'll find out. But you got Fresno State out of conference is the only out of conference game right now. With that said, here's their conference schedule: at Indiana, at Penn State, at Rutgers, at UCLA, which is either going to be SoFi or the Rose Bowl. Big deal. They host Maryland. They host Ohio State. They host Oregon. They host Washington. They're at Wisconsin. So if people thought this year's schedule was difficult,
next year's is rougher.
Yeah, next year's is rough. It's not quite as rough as Ohio State's, but it's pretty darn sandpaper. Yeah, it's going to hurt if you fall down.
Well, this is my theory. I run Locked On Seminoles too, and obviously that program is nowhere near the shape that SC is. But to reach your long-term goals, we both know football is a team sport, especially O-line and quarterback take forever to develop. There's no shortcut. It is in-game reps, and you got to suffer the consequences.
Coach Riley said, look, we made a mistake in our second year. We kept going to the portal, and that now he's like, you know what? We're just going recruits. We're at that level now. And that's who they were using a backup, whether it was a walk-on like Jalen Miller. They're just, like you said, they're biting the bullet. They're just doing what they got to do.
So next year, I mean, it sucks because you've got a quarterback that'll be in the Heisman race, in my opinion, if they get receiver right, etc.
And if he comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he will, but he may not. But if he doesn't come back, then all bets are off. Quarterback, that's another animal. But it's still SC. It's not hard to get quarterback. They'll figure that out.
They got Husan Longstreet waiting in the wings, remember?
Yep, he's a good player. So if next year doesn't go well, worst case scenario, in my opinion, is you, like Stewart and those guys are sophomores. Stewart can't turn pro after next year if he wants to. He's not eligible. I would play the young guys. If you go 9-3 against that schedule with like 3 games you lose by 5 points, is what it is. But then the year after, you should, assuming quarterback, yeah, that's the big if. It's always the if. Why couldn't you be 11-1 and like a number 3 seed overall in the like? Why not? The biggest key to me again is this thing I taught, and this is the one knock that I do not trust Lincoln Riley with the power football stuff until he proves it. Like it's the same thing every year when they play teams that recruit really well in the trenches, they don't fare well.
And Brian, you're absolutely right. That is the knock on Lincoln Riley. With that said, I think you have to say they might have turned that page. You saw what they did to Michigan. I mean,
absolutely.
They know that they can play that style of ball. Can they play that style of ball 10 times a year, out of conference with Notre Dame and in conference? That's the question. And you saw that when they just didn't have enough depth once things start to break down and you're using your high school kids that you brought in. So we're on the same page. But they beat Michigan. They did Iowa the Iowa way. I mean, we're talking weather, the game style, everything. And they, Northwestern, maybe not the greatest team, but they're a physical team. USC did that. There was a 3-game stretch down where USC gave up 6 points in 3 games in the second half of games. I mean, that's going to get it done. So they have to be able to get it done against an Oregon and a Notre Dame when those guys are on your schedule. That's the final step for this program right now.
That's why the high school recruiting this year was important. And again, it's dangerous because they've got the money to do it, to go supplement in the portal right away and be aggressive. You're still better to invest in your 27 class, et cetera, and just take a few pieces. Let the youngins eat, let them play. Then worst case scenario, in 2027, you're a top 10 team, worst case scenario. Probably should be top 5,
right?
If they're patient. But are they going to be patient though, Mark? I need to see it. You got to prove to me that you're going to be patient.
See, for me, you have to be patient, but we're not going into year 5 next year. Going into year, has USC, are they where they should be? I mean, this really should have been the year.
They should have done the stuff in year 2 with the high school. We'd already be talking about it, but they didn't.
Not only that, you held on to Alex Grinch a year too long. I mean, there was just so many gas bubbles, parts, whatever you want to call it, that eventually you had to flush the system.
Yeah.
This is where we are right now. This is where we are.
I think from where they're at.
What could have been.
From now, this is the best they can do, is to be patient. It's not fun. I never said this was quote unquote optimum.
No.
But next year with that schedule, do I expect them to beat Ohio State? No, I don't.
It's in LA.
Anybody to beat Ohio State.
It's in LA. Yeah,
I know. I mean, it'd be great, but I mean, that Ohio State team might be better than this one.
Very possible. Very possible.
So we'll see, but I would play the younger guys and roll the dice that way, because your long-term stability is better.
Until USC gets that linebacker level of defense figured out, it hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been good enough. That's the best way for me to say it.
That's fair. All right. Mark, I appreciate you doing this crossover with me. A lot of fun, always educational. Tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Every single day, Locked On USC. We're going to talk about some of the stuff Brian and I have been talking about during the rest of this week, as well as UCLA. And then when I'm not there, I'm over there at wearesc.com putting up some articles. And we also do our weekly show, the Inside the Trojan Huddle. So you can find me everywhere, any day of the week. All
right, brother. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else. This has been a Locked On crossover with USC and the Portal.